Man, the legend, Coach David Zimroth. What's going on, Z? How are you, buddy?
Jay, good to see you again. It was a pleasure seeing you on Tuesday at Tampa Catholic as well.
Yeah, you and I, man, we could talk basketball till the cows come home, brother. It's basketball. Me and my dad, it's just our favorite sport, watching together, and we're diehard Knicks fans. My dad telling me about the teams in the early '70s, and that's the one team, man. I want to see them win so freaking bad. But man, college hoops has been so exciting this year. And let's start right off with the USF Memphis game tonight. It's a 9:00 affair. Bulls basketball, being involved with the program. And listen, this is one of those games, 9:00 national TV games. They have success last year going into Memphis, winning that game. How do you see this game shaking out tonight?
Well, what's interesting is the way USF played against Memphis last year basically turned both seasons around. It turned USF season around big time to where they had probably the greatest season in the history of the basketball program. And then with Memphis, it threw them into a tailspin. I mean, they couldn't get it right. They went from being a top 10, top 15 team to dropping out of the rankings. They really struggled the rest of the year. So I wouldn't put it past the Bulls to do the same thing tonight. Everybody's thinking this is just a cakewalk for Memphis. I don't look at it like that. Like you said, national TV audience. This game's going to come down to what I think are 2 or 3 things. One, can USF control the backcourt of the perimeter game of Memphis? They've got the 3rd leading scorer in the country in Haggerty. Okay, he averages 21 a game. But more importantly, he gets to the line 8 or 9 times a game. So a third of his points will come from the foul line. So you can't foul him. All right, you got to contain him. And when he doesn't have the ball, don't let him get the ball if possible. The other 2 guards are Hunter and Rogers. So between those 3 perimeter guys, they're averaging 45-plus points a game. You got to contain their perimeter. And I think if USF can do that, along with Reed and Reynolds having great games, I think USF's got a chance to pull off the win. And I don't consider it an upset. I mean, if you look at USF at home, they play really well. Reynolds played out of his mind, probably his career game against Temple the other night. Reed, in my opinion, was the catalyst behind the entire turnaround last year for USF. Against FSU, he played out of his mind, defended full court. So I think if they can stay out of foul trouble, contain the perimeter game, get away even on the boards, I think something special can happen tonight.
So you said something really interesting to me, because you've seen this USF program from way down to way up, just kind of the ups and downs, the peaks and valleys. And you said something to me that really struck a chord. You thought last year with Amir Abdur-Rahim was one of the most important and impactful seasons, regardless of the sport, in school history, correct?
Correct.
Just because, and why? Because you've been on campus, so you know about the school program. You've been around. You've had conversations with the guys like Leroy.
Let me tell you what a lot of former coaches and players do. Not because they're not happy. It's a natural thing. You don't think anybody's going to do a better job than you did. You don't think anybody's going to play better than you played. I've been associated with USF basketball since probably the mid-'70s, okay? In terms of knowing about the program, players that went there in the middle '70s. And so I watched the growth of that school and that program. I was an assistant coach for 7 years. I have no problem admitting that our 7 years, we didn't get done what we should have gotten done. Mm-hmm. So when I say this stuff, it's not to put down anybody else but what this man did last year, what Amir Abdur-Rahim did last year with his staff, with his team, is I've never seen it happen in any sport at the school in 1 year. In 1 year. In year one. So I don't think giving credit to him in that regard, God rest his soul, is wrong. I mean, it was amazing. He galvanized an entire community. Nobody was really talking about USF basketball. Okay? It's not like it's on the tip of people's tongue. And that's just the truth. He made it a topic of conversation last year. What they did, how they played, with how they handled themselves, just everything about the program. It was amazing. So in my opinion, it's the best job what he did last year. I don't think anybody could say it wasn't the best first year job in the history of the athletic department. And I give Mike Kelly a lot of credit for the hire, because he took a guy from a low Division I league that turned around a bad program. Let's face it, bad program. And he took all of what he did there, brought it to Tampa, and he made it work. And he made it work so fast. It was crazy. And here's another thing I loved about what he did last year. A lot of coaches in different sports have issues with media, supporters, whatever. The guy didn't have an issue with anybody about anything. Matter of fact, he lost his 3 best players to the portal that all could have come back this year. Okay? That could have basically had another great year. But he understood they couldn't pay those 3 kids the money that they were going to make at other schools. What did he do? Said great things about him in the media, probably met with them in private, said, take it and go. You deserve it. Might be the only time you ever make this kind of money. So that's what I really appreciated about him from an outsider looking in, okay? USF's had really good seasons with other coaches, and they've had other good players. But what happened last year, from my opinion, has never happened before.
An assistant at USF, also an assistant at Georgia and Florida State. We heard the news a couple of weeks ago, the Leonard Hamilton stepping down at the end of the season. What do you make of that news, Z? And I know it's kind of tough to see who else would come in there, but do you think they go big game hunting when they try to replace him there, or is it somebody from within? What do you think?
Well, the crazy part of this, I still have some connections. I've been out of business now since the end of the 2003 season. When I say out of business, out of the college coaching business. But I've kept my network intact of people that I trust and deal with. I've heard from very reliable sources there could be 50 to 60 jobs open this year. Wow. Now, I want you to think of that. 50 to 60 Division I jobs. Okay. That being said, the 3 jobs that I feel are probably the most important jobs or the biggest jobs open right now. You got Virginia's open. Tony Bennett resigned before the beginning of the year. Florida State's open. Leonard Hamilton announced his retirement. Jim Larinaga announced his retirement a few months back from Miami. And you got Mike Woodson, who announced his retirement. Okay? So it's not so much who can you get, is which of these jobs is better than the other.
Right.
What's going to happen in terms of the dominoes once one guy takes one of those jobs. And then lastly, here's the most important thing now when considering a job. You have NIL packages. If you don't have competitive NIL packages, you could be the greatest tactician in the history of basketball. You're not winning. You're not winning. And I'm not saying the team's the highest payroll win. What I'm saying is you're going to lose kids that might have helped you earlier in your career. So, I've been talking, I said this to you the other day. You got a kid at a low Division I school who averages 15, 20 a game as a freshman and a sophomore. He's gone. He's gone because that school can't pay him. So he can go to another school and make a couple of $100,000, maybe more. But getting back to Florida State, I've heard that some former players have major interest in terms of Sam Cassell and Luke Laux. You've got people, talking about Will Wade at McNeese State. It'll be interesting to see what happens. What I tell NBA guys that I know, that I coach, is very simple. The life you've led. So take Mike Woodson, for example. Mike Woodson's been in the NBA since his rookie season. Got to be 30 plus years, maybe more. He had no concept of what the college, environment was like, other than when he played. Sam Cassell, same thing. He's been in the NBA 30 years. From the practices, the preparation, there's no recruiting. You coach who the team buys or pays or whatever. Your roster can change. Your lifestyle changes from having free time to literally having no free time. Okay? So it'll be interesting to see what happens. Who can they get? What kind of competitive NIL? And, going forward, if Sam wants that job, I hope he gets it offered to him because that's my guy. Okay, yeah. I coached him, I recruited him. I think it'd be an amazing story. But again, if you look at the guys that were college coaches that went to the pros and the jobs they did and the success they had, for every Brad Stevens who left Butler went to Boston, for every Billy Donovan that went from Florida to the pro. Billy Donovan's been a pro coach now for, 10 plus 13 years, whatever it is. You've got Fred Hoiberg, who wasn't successful. Tim Floyd wasn't successful. John Beeline, not successful. Mike Woodson, not successful in terms of the success that the athletic directors and the administration want.
Yeah, it's hard to go from that one level to the next because it really is. It's a completely different game.
Different world.
It's almost like the only similarity is you got to put the ball in the hoop. That's it.
And now they're saying, well, it's like the pros with the money and this and that. You're still having to do things on a daily basis as a college basketball coach that you do not have to do as an NBA coach. Even Rick Pitino said something very interesting about a week ago. They had a big win, or they beat someone that they were supposed to beat. Might have been Seton Hall. And he goes, everyone's raving about how good my team is and how poor the other team is maybe. He goes, let me make sure you understand. That team that we just beat is coached very well. The difference is we have NIL monies. They don't have it at that level. So we have better players than them. When you have better players, you're winning. It's very rare the team with the best players lose. Very, very rare. Okay? So if he could say it and be that, in depth and blunt about it, it's just the truth.
Yeah, that's one of the best coaches that we've seen. And, St. John's fell to Villanova, but I'm very glad that they're back, amongst the prominent teams there in college basketball, ranked in the top 25. And Z, if you look at the top 25, man, it is littered with teams from the SEC. And now it seems like there's 500 freaking teams in the conference. It's still weird to see Texas and Oklahoma in there. There'll always be Big 12 teams to me. But what do you make of the conference? I know we have the big showdown coming up with Auburn and Alabama. I mean,
right.
What do you see when you look at kind of the hierarchy there and, kind of the key to their success?
I don't watch a lot of analysts talking about basketball. I form my own opinions. I've been around the game since I'm a kid. I feel like I got a pretty good track record of success, knowing what I'm talking about. When you look at the SEC, any person in the business or out of the business that doesn't think it's going to be harder to win the Southeast Conference tournament than win the NCAA tournament is out of their minds. I mean, it's ridiculous at the bottom of the SEC, the bottom of the league, the worst team in the league, the worst record is South Carolina. Basically, every game they play is a 2-point game. They haven't won a game, okay? Arkansas was a preseason top 15 team. They're at the bottom of the league, okay? You've got Texas, Georgia. You've got teams with very good basketball coaches and programs that are at the bottom of that league. So when you look at that top to bottom, to me, it's the most competitive league in the country by far, maybe in the history of the Southeast Conference. But when I coached in the Southeast Conference, there was 12 teams. You got 18 teams now. It's a different world, different world. But you got 9 teams that are ranked, I think, in the SEC. Vandy's the only one not ranked. They're going to go to the tournament. You got 10 definite teams going to the tournament. And that doesn't count maybe a couple others that might have a good Southeast conference tournament, or win some games here at the end and get, an at-large bid. And
you told me the other night, you said, Jay, look at these 3 games. These are 3 teams going on the road, playing against lower seeds. And the one of those 3 games was Tennessee going into Kentucky. And you said to me, you think Kentucky's really going to lose another home game? And they beat the 5th best team in the country in Tennessee. I mean, Tennessee's like one of the great examples, because when you look at them, they're 20-5 and they're 7th in the SEC. They're 20-5, Z, right. And they're 7-5 in the SEC. Like, that is insane.
Well, what's crazy is when we were talking, Kentucky's had home games where they've given up over 100 twice and over 90, I believe, twice. And all of a sudden now, they played the best defense they've played all year. I mean, they gave up 64 points the other night. So you wonder what took place. Is Tennessee that bad offensively, or was Kentucky off the charts defensively? So if they can duplicate that performance on the defensive end, they're going to be a tough team to deal with here at the end. Tennessee's still one of the best teams in the country. I don't consider them a great scoring team, but I'm going to tell you who I'm very, very impressed with, and I cannot believe the improvement of some of the kids. The guy up in Florida has done a heck of a job.
Yeah.
Todd Golden has done a heck of a job. And look, I'm a Seminole graduate. I'm a Seminole coach. I'm out of the business in terms of that stuff. You do a good job, you do a good job. I mean, I remember coaching in South Florida and Billy Donovan, we all got the job the same year. I'm saying what this guy is doing is unheard of, okay? Unheard of in this state. But you look at the improvement of Florida's big kids. They're talking about the kid Condon, who was injured the other night, didn't even play.
Yeah.
They're talking about him being a high first-round draft pick right now.
Yeah.
He was under-recruited. If you look at that kid from last year to this year, it's two different players. So everybody's talking about their perimeter game, which is off the charts, between Martin, Recher, hometown kid from Bartow, Clayton, Aberdeen coming off the bench. They've got great perimeter. But their two big kids are really, really good. And that's why they beat Auburn. Auburn didn't know what to do with those guys. They couldn't get second shots. I thought they were a little intimidated.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't see Auburn intimidated very much.
I watched
Auburn
that
was
game.
due for a game. They would do.
Yeah. I watched that game with my dad too, and it was just like Florida just kept punching. And every time Auburn with a little bit of a counter punch, Florida just kept going, and they just didn't let up. And what an incredible performance. I want to ask you about Coach Cal at Arkansas. It's still weird not to see him rocking some semblance of blue, whether it's Memphis or Kentucky. What do you make of the job that he's done in year one, and how long is it going to take for him? Because I think with the NIL, they got deep pockets there. How long do you think it takes before they're amongst the elite, not just in the SEC, but in the country?
Everybody likes bashing guys that are on top, okay? And especially if you give them a reason. So Calipari's brash, outgoing way of dealing with people and players and the media, I'm sure it, gets some people, a little bit sideways. I've known him since we were both grad assistants. He was at Kansas. I was at Georgia, okay? What he's done in his career, nobody needs to badmouth him or say things like he can't coach. What I will tell you is his loyalty to players he recruits in terms of playing time and position, etc. I think those things have gotten him in a little trouble in terms of wins and losses. So you take, for example, this year, he signed a kid out of New York named Boogie Fland. Yeah. I mean, the kid is talented. He's a one and done. He's going to the NBA. He can do it all. And I've been saying it since the beginning of the year. He had 4 or 5 other kids that were high school All-Americans, all right? Including Carter Knox here in Tampa and some other guys. He gave the kid the ball, and the kid is one of those guys that the ball is in his hands. He tended to over-dribble, and everybody stood around. So now the kid gets injured. You don't want to see anybody get injured, but at the end of the day, the team is playing better without him. Because now people that needed the ball, like DJ Wagner, he's the one with the ball, and everybody's moving. They're cutting harder. They're playing better defensively. They're getting better shots. The ball is touching more people's hands every possession. They're like a different team. Again, Boogie Fland's going to be a top 15 draft pick, maybe 20, whatever it is. I don't know how they do it anymore. But the team is playing better without him, which is kind of weird because he was their best recruit. That's Coach, my opinion.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. And before I let you, I want to ask you about a team that I've been following since I was knee-high to a grasshopper, and seeing what Duke has done this year. I mean, it's not. I don't think enough people are talking about the job that John Shire's done taking over for Mike Krzyzewski. And then, I mean, obviously it helps when you get a guy like Cooper Flagg come in. But what have you seen from the youngster from up there in Maine? It'd be a shock if he's not the number 1 pick next year, but it just seems like he's a guy that he can affect the game in so many different ways.
Few things. I was already out of business when John Shire came out of Chicago. But John Shire, people don't realize, John Shire was a top 10 high school player. John Shire was a great prospect, not a good prospect, a great prospect, okay? He went to Duke and had dynamite career. Stays on as an assistant. If you're an assistant at Duke, the one thing you're going to learn how to run a program and how to deal with things because you're at the pinnacle of the business and it's a daily thing. You're at the pinnacle. What do you got to do to stay at the pinnacle? He's very bright. He is very connected with today's player. He's extremely poised. extremely poised on the sideline in front of the media. He doesn't get too high, doesn't get too low. It's exactly how he used to play. And I think the guy is doing a phenomenal job. Will he do the job that Mike Krzyzewski did? Or you can ask the guy to win 5 NCAA championships. I don't think that's something that you could.
Right.
I think this guy's going to set his own trail, blaze his own trail, and become one of the great coaches, maybe in the history of the game, and stay at Duke an extremely long time with a lot of success. But the playing field's a little bit more level now. Okay, right. So he has Cooper Flagg, who's phenomenal. You think about it. I don't think anybody in this country that knows basketball can name me the last player from Maine that was a high school All-American and it's going to be a top NBA draft pick. Right. I don't know any, and I've been around the game a long time. Mm-hmm. But he's a great recruiter, and that kid is a special talent. He'll be gone in a year, and he's only 18. I think he just turned 18. But he's going to keep reloading. And he's going to reload with his kind of players. Right. He's not going to get into a bidding war about this kid or that kid. Okay? Who knows what their NIL packages are? I have no idea. I do know this. In the old days, ACC guys made a lot of money barnstorming before the stuff was legal. Okay? These ACC kids now, not only with the NIL package that they get from the schools, they can do a lot of stuff off the side and make their own deals. Right. Whether it's in the community, around the state of North Carolina. I mean, it's big business. It's big business up there. It's a different world, but the league is not the same as it used to be. The traditional teams aren't what they used to be. A lot of coaches have left, and it'll be interesting to see how things move forward in the ACC. And I'm a big ACC fan, but I grew up in SEC country. So I see the difference right now in terms of athletes, in terms of depth, in terms of how good each of the teams are compared to the other league. You know, bottom of the ACC is not very good. Now, I'll tell you this. Leonard Hamilton might be thinking about reneging on his resignation because his team's playing all out of their minds since he announced it. What they did last night at Wake Forest is crazy.
Yeah.
Down 14, come back and win the game in the last 10 seconds.
Unbelievable comeback. Yeah, and another job, Hubert Davis. I know a lot of people not happy with how he's doing things at Chapel Hill either. So we'll see how that whole thing shakes out.
Hey, and they've been known to get rid of their own guys now.
Yeah.
It's not like – and look, I coached against Hubert Davis, and Charlie Ward, who I coached, is good friends with Hubert Davis. You know, they played together. He's a heck of a guy. But, again, it's a level playing field right now for the hierarchy of college basketball. Where it used to be Carolina and Duke, let's say, they got the best players. Then Kentucky, a few others. Everyone else got the other kids, and you hoped and prayed they were as good at some point in their careers. But those schools got the best players in the country, hands down, every year. Every year. That's not going to happen anymore.
Right.
It's just not. Look at the kid that A.J. Dine-Bast, I think that's how you pronounce his name. I mean, he's going Brigham Young.
Yeah.
He's also getting $7 or $8 million, but that's where he's going. In the old days, that kid's going to Duke or going to Carolina, going to Kentucky. So who knows what's going on?
Different world now. Coach, how can I know you do camps and stuff. How can people sign up for camps and follow what you got going on?
Anybody wants to reach me, they can always email me at dzimroth@brighthouse.com. Easiest way to reach me.
Simple enough. Coach Z, the man, the one and only, the living legend. I appreciate you for all your time, my friend. Thank you so much.
Hey, you're friends with my in-laws. I mean, I never. You got a better relationship with the Russos than I do, for God's sake. I mean, he's my son-in-law. He sees you. He doesn't even talk to me.
Well, you know what that means? That means that we're going to see each other a lot more this baseball season. Z, you're the man. Thanks, brother. Talk soon.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
You got it, pal.